During this morning, we're going to focus on the possibilities when state executive leadership is connected to providing and making the customer experience a priority. We're going to go ahead and dive in. And Tonya, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
Like yourself, each person in this room is committed to helping government really focus on providing a human-centered services. You are the first CXO for the state of New York, which is very exciting. And with that, why do you believe that state government is so important?
Yeah.
And what is so unique in this moment?
Yeah, so no pressure with being the nation's first CXO, but very exciting, no pressure at all. But why this is so important that we start in the States is because in the States, you guys, that's where the rubber meets the road. At the end of the day, we're closest to the people, the closest to the delivery of services. When you talk about delivering human-centered design practices, you gotta be where the people are. So that's what makes it important, that we have to look at this at a state level. And why this time is unique is because COVID showed us a different way to work, right? We had to deliver services in a different way, faster, simpler, and more seamless, right? So that, there in of itself, created a shift in customer expectations on the possibilities of what government can actually do. They saw us in action, right? So why would they want to go back, right? And then as technologists, we had to work differently. So we had to break down silos, we had to innovate, we had to think differently, we had to incorporate more UX to understand the problems that we were having. So COVID really put us in a unique space, in a unique moment. And I've been a customer experience professional for a long time. And that moment in time has pivoted us to a space where we have no choice but to really think about new, innovative, and human-centered design ways in order to deliver solutions to our customers.
Thank you for that. And Tarek, the process of institutional transformation has been of great debate, and whether or not change is originated from the top down or the bottom up. As the CIO for the state of Minnesota, can you provide us some insight on the importance of bringing along governor's offices and agency leadership during this journey? And are there any strategies that you find most effective?
Well, thanks for that question, CJ, and really thank you everyone for being here. Like, the energy in this room is amazing, and I feel like I've arrived being able to share a stage with these amazing people. In Minnesota, the governor's vision for our families is to create the best possible place to raise a child. And that kind of gives us a unbelievable North Star to rally around, because when you create a space that is geared towards raising children in the best possible way, all other government services are essential to actually bring that type of a vision to reality. And we don't get to say whether it is or it isn't. The children and families in Minnesota are uniquely the ones that get to weigh in on, and that kind of drives our approach in terms of just connecting with people related to the services and keeping people in the center of the services that we provide. Digital really is the engine of government. It has become that, and it really is the engine that moves government in so many different ways. I think for administrations and policymakers, certainly digital capabilities can make or break different policy directions, and it's a connector. Digital connects people with opportunities. But probably the most important aspect of digital is this digital connector with things like jobs and healthcare and employment opportunities and rehabilitation opportunities and so many other things that are associated with that. I think the question, this institutional transformation, that term in and of itself, right, is a little bit like, you know, I hope everyone kind of repels from that term, because that's kind of how we view government a little bit, institutional, rehabilitate, like it's a big thing. And I think it has to get way more personal than that. I don't think the transformation that we're seeking can be done to government. It has to be done with government, and it has to be done with people. Like, we all have to be the co-designers. And so for us in Minnesota, we can't bring the governor's office along, nor can we bring our employees along. They all have to be a part of this, because changing the way we work, changing the way we think, changing the outcomes that we're seeking, changing the relationship that people have with digital capabilities means that this transformation is going to be much, much bigger than involving anyone or bringing anyone. And so that ability to really anchor yourself around how do I serve people best and who gets to decide that you are serving people best is really at the center of the work that we think is really important.
Thank you for that. Hi, Amaya.
Hey.
How are you? Before joining the state of Pennsylvania, you were the vice president of product management at Comcast. Mm-hmm. What did you learn in that role, specifically around talent and building effective teams that helped inform you with moving into the state of Pennsylvania?
Yeah. So when I was at Comcast, and Tonya was there too, we were driving a transformation around stopping delivering fragmented experiences to our customers. We had all these lines of businesses, and think like our agencies and state government and local government. And we had, of course, just one customer who was on the receiving end. And customers were turning to us in critical moments, troubleshooting Wi-Fi before a job interview. And we needed to deliver a seamless experience, and we weren't. So, when I reflect back and think about how did we go from asking customers to download as many as 11 apps and getting caught in these frustrating loops to one simple app that grew from 1 million active users to 10 million over 18 months. There's a few success factors for how you, I think it's building on Tarek's point a little bit, everyone needs to be involved, right? So kind of three things come to mind. Number one, everyone needs to be immersed in the customer, right? And talking to customers, we have to do customer callbacks monthly. Call a random customer.
Courtesy of me.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Welcome.
But talking to those customers so you can understand what are the problems they're facing. And then as within your teams, really the classic, is it valuable, usable, feasible? How do you make sure you're maximizing the impact and choosing the right problems to solve? So find those problems to solve, choosing the right problems to solve. And then, as Tarek also mentioned, it's all about the people. So when you want to do big things, you got to kind of align across teams to make it happen. So one of the things that I learned a lot about was just working across distinct teams in the organization that had different perspectives, that didn't see things exactly the same way. So when you're shopping that strategy around about this is what we should do, what I started to realize I had to do was listen for the theys. The theys is a way that I think of those, people sort of resistant to change. The theys, they don't really understand. They don't want to work with us. They don't really understand what's really happening out there. And so I tune into those and ask, well, who are you talking about? Tell me more about that. Then you get your team to really engage with those different teams, understand where they're coming from, bring them on board, because otherwise you're putting your team out there and they're not really in an environment they're going to thrive and succeed in. And then the last part, which I think is really about motivating teams to go after it, and that's my favorite part, is great, you have a focus, a plan, people are on board. As your team, what do you need to be successful? And don't stop asking that question. Today at the Commonwealth, one of our top 3 initiatives is to deliver a better help desk experience for in our IT organization. We support 80,000 employees in the government. It's the front door to IT services. And so as we're bringing the team together around that goal, had some kickoff conversations, and I'm asking the team, these folks have worked in help desk for years. Hey, where should we start? What are the key things that we need to do? And there was a little bit of reluctance in talking, and finally someone piped up and said, it's in the past, whenever we kind of called out the problems, we got shut down by leadership. They didn't really want to hear about it. So are you open to hearing about the problems? I'm like, absolutely. The only way we're going to succeed is if we understand what the problems are so we can fix it. Please, lay it all on the table. And so they were asking for permission, and that was what they needed. But it could also be something simple. Like I heard from another team member, all of our help desk people have half-broken headsets. Can we get some headsets, right? So just, you never know what it's going to be, and it can be the most smallest thing. But when your team and the people around you start seeing that you really want them to succeed, then you're kind of unstoppable. So those are the few things that I've learned that bring to Pennsylvania.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So there are hundreds of civic technologists and public servants out here today, and as they're looking at the rest of their year, what would be your call to action for them, and how can they help with your transformative states?
Really trying in New York State, where we're working towards just building customer experience into the fabric of what we do. So I would say, as technologists, making sure that we're helping to lead this cultural shift of human-centered design and what are the problems that we're actually solving, I think is an important piece that we're tackling and seeing in our state. And I think the other piece is, as we have these conversations, continue to help break down silos by bringing other groups to the table, because when we solve for problems, it's just not one-dimensional or a point solution, right? It could really potentially be an integrated solution, thereby really exponentially improving the customer experience because you're solving for multiple problems. And when you look across different agencies and groups, as I spent time with Amaya and Tarek over the last day or so, there are really some common threads that as technologists we can come to the table. So we just got to keep pushing the conversation and bringing the right people to the table. And then I think we have to lead with that digital first mindset, right? And making sure if we're not at the table, we're inserting ourselves in those conversations.
The magic really lies in our ability at times to get from policy to benefit for people as fast as possible. You know, when we have an opportunity to reduce childhood poverty by distributing a child tax rebate to people, how fast can we do that? Because that makes the difference between a family maybe having breakfast in the morning or not. So reducing that time is as crucial as anything. And I think really important for us, and I invite this entire community to come join us in Minnesota, is building sustainable solutions. You know, help us build the digital solutions of today that will also work tomorrow, that will evolve and change over time, where we have the agility to pivot, because we know that fundamentally government is going to change exponentially all the time, continually. And so our ability to not just meet today, but really look forward and meet tomorrow, things that we can sustain and continue to evolve is really important.
One of the things that I think can be incredibly powerful is to just turn to your colleague, turn to people that you work with, and ask them for their input. You know, I bet there's some developers out here, right? How much do you guys love those bug sprints or those hackathons where you finally get to fix that bug that it's been bothering you for sprints or months? You know, everybody has those things that they've been sitting on that they've been wanting to do but maybe have forgotten because nobody's asked them. So go talk to a colleague and say, you know, what would you fix? What are your ideas? How would you approach this? And when you engage in that conversation, a couple things happen. Number one, maybe something comes to light that's a true big problem, you know, way to solve an important problem, or you just get to understand and learn more about that person, what they have to bring to the table, and start to build a relationship. I think it's one of the most pragmatic ways to be inclusive. And then the second one is to figure out how you can expand the playing field. Very quickly, there's an ad running now. There's a girl in a backyard. She's on a swing, and she swings forward. She hits this fence right in front of her. She swings back. She hits the fence right. It's like this ridiculously, laughably small backyard. And it feels like a bit of a metaphor for the boundaries that we encounter and that many of our teams encounter as we try to work. We just keep slamming against the boundaries. And I think you kind of have to be curious, you know, why is that fence there? You know, like, if I look over, is there a wall right behind it? Or actually, is there a 3-foot gap and we can just move that fence back and this poor girl can swing, right? So I encourage you to be curious. I'll shout out Marina Nitsa. She has an awesome book, Hack Your Bureaucracy, with tons of pragmatic advice, asking why 5 times, talking to people who have thought about this problem before so they can catch you up on all of the considerations. So I encourage you to be curious about how we can relax the constraints, remove the constraints, so we can do more effectively.
I want to thank all of you for spending time with us this morning, and I hope you're as inspired as I am by each one of the panelists here, and continue to do great work across all of your industries.